Okay, welcome everyone to Peace House Thursday evening Sutta discussion. Today we have a guest monk. You can see him right here, and he will give a self-introduction and begin the talk. Welcome.
Sounds good.
Hello, everyone. My name is Venerable Wade Bhuripanyo. I am a bhikkhu ordained in 2014 at a branch monastery of Wat Nong Papong in Rayong Province, Thailand. Wat Nong Papong is the home monastery of Ajahn Chah, so I'm a member of the Ajahn Chah lineage of Thailand. And I arrived here at Peace House on Monday, July 3rd, having a very pleasant experience, meeting for the first time Bhante Kusala and Bhante Samita, and having a very pleasant time. A lot of wonderful things happening here, guided meditations and Dhamma talks, and benefited from a great deal personally. So I'm very grateful to be here. And Bhante Kusala asked me yesterday to give a talk on Dhammapada verse. Bhante Kusala has already discussed the first 4 verses of the Dhammapada. He's told me it's probably the talks are preserved on the internet for anyone who's missed them. And so I'll be discussing the 5th verse of the Dhammapada, including the commentarial story behind the reason the Buddha gave us the verse.
Let me share the screen, Bhante. Right. It's really small letters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. So again, this is Dhammapada verse 5. It comes in the first chapter of the Dhammapada, which is a chapter of pairs. And the English translation, I believe the screen is shared for everyone.
Yes.
Okay. And so you can see the Pali in italics in the top middle of the screen. And the English translation just below it as, hatred is, indeed, never appeased by hatred in this world. It is appeased only by loving kindness. This is an ancient law. All right. Again, hatred is indeed never appeased by hatred in this world. It is appeased only by loving kindness. This is an ancient law. Okay. This verse is translated with in an alternate fashion, with it is appeased only by non-hatred. This is an ancient law, and some translators will translate ancient law as an eternal law, meaning a timeless law that applies in every time and place, from ancient times to the present. And there is a distinction between it is appeased only by loving kindness, and it is appeased only by non-hatred. As well, loving kindness is a wonderful antidote to hatred, very powerful and very useful. There are other antidotes as well, and so we'll perhaps discuss one or more of the alternate methods as well, to see which ones we find most suitable to us in the various situations we find ourselves in. All right, so we have the story here shared with us on the screen. Indicates that, okay, good. Thank you. Bhante Kusala is working in the technical aspect of things for me, very, very fortunately. So we're adjusting the type size. Okay. The story is that there was a feud between the 2 wives of a householder. The first wife was barren, and so later the householder took a second wife. The first wife was jealous that then she had a rival she sought in the household, and so she poisoned the second wife when the second wife became pregnant. In fact, she did this multiple times, each time killing the child in the womb. And on the final time, I believe it was the 3rd time, the woman, not only the child, but also the second wife as well, passed away, were killed by the poison. So the first wife succeeded, killing not only the baby but her rival as well. And on her deathbed, the second wife made a vow that she would get revenge against this for the first wife for murdering her and her unborn children. In subsequent lives, the two wives were rivals as well, based on this feud. And the second wife did succeed in avenging the death of her unborn children and her own murder by killing the first wife. And then again, and on her deathbed, the first wife also made a vow that she would avenge herself. And so in the next life, they were reborn as rivals again. And so this cycle continued. In fact, one of them was reborn as an ogre, and the other one as a human. And they alternated in life to life, from life to life in this way as well, with the ogress harassing and attacking the human lady. The Buddha came upon this pair and saw their rivalry, saw them in feud, and he stopped them and explained to them about this history that they had together. That in previous lives they'd killed each other and taken vows to avenge their deaths. And this was the occasion for him to explain to them that they should let go of their old rivalry, because they would never find happiness from fighting in this way. Simply they would go around and around in this cycle of killing each other over and over again. And he uttered this verse that's come down to us to the present day. Hatred is indeed never appeased by hatred in this world. It is appeased only by loving kindness. This is an ancient law. So this is quite a popular story in Buddhist cultures. I remember it's one of the first Buddhist stories I ever learned, was ever taught to me. Quite graphic, the story is, with the two ladies following each other from life to life in repeated rivalry, and of course with the one of the figures being an ogress. So it's quite a memorable story. And I think it hits home with many of us because we find ourselves in rivalry from time to time in life, whether we intend to be or not, and whether we see ourselves as rivals of someone else. We can be identified, perhaps even just wrongly, as being a rival. And we can see how that responding with anger or with hatred or with retaliation can so easily cause a cycle of repeated retaliation to take place. We can work through in our minds, well, if they've done this to me, well, then I should do that to them. I should get back at them. Tit for tat, you might say. But then as we work through it, we see, well, this will just lead on to another consequence. They in turn will try to retaliate against me. And where will it all end? I think if we're sensitive to the cause and effect relationships, if we have mindfulness, and if we can keep our hatred under control to some extent, then we can see with a calm and clear head that there's probably a better way. So in this verse, in this translation of the verse, a better way that is recommended is loving kindness, saying that this is an ancient law. In fact, loving kindness is directly recommended in the suttas as an antidote to hatred in other places as well. This comes down to us in the Theravada tradition as well. It's the first of the four Brahma Vihara, the four, you could say, the divine abidings, or the abiding places of the great god Brahma. As they say that Brahma, according to Buddhist cosmology, is highly developed in all four of these wonderful mature emotions, such as loving kindness. Loving kindness being the first, and compassion being the second. The third being sympathetic joy, and the fourth, equanimity. Say these are the four Brahma Viharas, these very mature emotions. And so loving kindness, as I mentioned, is indicated in the suttas and is handed down to us by the Theravada tradition as an antidote directly to hatred. Compassion as an antidote to cruelty. Sympathetic joy as an antidote to jealousy, and equanimity as an antidote to being overly concerned with the affairs of the world, for putting things aside. Each one of these Brahma Viharas has its own place, and we can learn over time how to skillfully deploy them in our lives to deal with situations we find ourselves in. Another is, if you think about loving kindness, another is another antidote to hatred and overcoming problems with other people could be simply thinking about their good qualities. If we think about what we have in common with them, how their aims in life are common, or how in fact all beings are brothers and sisters in suffering. And if we can think about their good qualities, then this can also calm our anger towards other people. For example, those of us who are on a spiritual path can think, well, even though I'm having difficulty with this person, they perhaps also are on a spiritual path. If they are, we find this in the monasteries, for example, when there's rivalry even between monastics. We can think about our commonality in that way. We're all trying to be on the spiritual path together, for example. Those of us in the room here listening to the Dhamma talk can think, well, the people we meet in the meditation centers and the monasteries, if we're having any difficulties with them, well, they also are trying to develop themselves spiritually. And so in that way, we're very similar. In our workplaces, we can think, well, we're all here trying to further the organization, to help the company. We're all trying to earn a living. We're all trying to make a living to feed our families, for example. We might even think, I'm a brother to someone, and this other person is a brother to someone. I am a father to someone, and this other person also is a father. I have a mother, and perhaps this woman is a mother to someone, And shouldn't I treat her in the same way that I would want other people to treat my mother? So we can think through these kinds of commonalities we have, and think about another teaching that the Buddha gave, which is that before we react to anyone, before we take action with anyone, to think, well, how would I want other people to treat me and to act towards me? It's very similar to the golden rule of the Christians. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And the Buddha also taught the same principle. And so if we think about how similar other people are to us, and think, well, how would I want other people to treat me? Then that can guide us in our actions with other people. Another antidote to hatred could be simply considering that actually situations are quite uncertain. It is quite commonly the case that our perceptions of situations aren't really quite right. We may think that someone has slighted us. We may think that someone dislikes us. We may think that someone is taking action against us in some way, or plotting something against us, for example. And in fact, this may not really be true. I think many of us have found this in our own experience time and time again. We think one thing is happening, and it turns out it's something else. Or even if somebody does something, say, for example, if they say something that we don't like, or they do something that we don't like, we may think of it as a general characteristic of theirs. We may find out, sooner or later, that actually it was just something that happened once, or it isn't something they normally do. We can think to ourselves, in terms of combining the two. We can think of the commonality we have with other people, and think about the uncertainty of our perceptions. That how often we've been misperceived in life. And how often we've done things that maybe we didn't really mean, for example, or we might have been in a bad mood and we said something hastily that we wouldn't really be proud of. We might want to take back. And so we think about this commonality also we have with other people. We give people more time and be more patient, and step back and not be reactive in situations. Well, I wonder, looks like we have someone else joining us. We're coming in the door downstairs. Well, I've talked about three kinds of antidotes to hatred after going over the commentarial stories of the Dhammapada. And I wonder if now might be a good time to open up for questions again.
Absolutely. Well, people are thinking of questions. I was thinking about people having land disputes, property disputes that go forever. Sometimes because of a little fence, when my mom had to put a fence because of neighbors' request, and how then they overnight try to own 1 more inch from our property. Like what's the big difference between? So things like that keep, ruin friendships. These neighbors starting to fight. So I think you have already discussed this, but I like to take a real example like that and maybe explore.
Sure, sure. Oh, that's a great point. I'll tell you, these little things. The land dispute is a great example. But even just 1 inch of land can mean so much.
Yeah.
And I think even the participants sometimes they find themselves later on wondering, how did this all start? And they might have even forgotten that it started over something so small. They might be somewhat embarrassed if they had to explain to somebody how their rivalry with someone, the feud with someone started. It's all over 1 inch of land. And I think one thing about this is that it can come back to a matter of the ego.
Mm.
Um, and in fact, there's a section in the suttas in the Digha Nikaya where the Buddha is asked, what is the root of conflict? And he traces it back to this conceit, I am, the attachment we have to ourselves, and the importance of ourselves, and how we have to protect ourselves and look after ourselves, and to some extent, even I don't want to quite use the word aggrandize, but perhaps even that to some extent. And we have a habit of identifying things. For example, our land. And we use that terminology. This is my land. And we stop and think about it. In what way is it mine? And so on, like this. It can be an interesting contemplation. It's a convention that we have in our society, and so on. And the land will be there long after we've passed away. And it was there for a long time before we came along. But many sources of rivalry come back to our own egos. And if we can reflect on that and think, why is it so important that I fight over this, or be in conflict with someone over this? And think about how pleasant is this, and how good is it for me to be fighting with someone? And is it really worth it? If it comes down to a little bit of land, and in some cases, of course, there can be real consequences. If it's a substantial amount of land that you're using for planting vegetables, for example, or other crops for your family, and this is an important thing. Or if you have other uses for the land. And I think then in a case like this, if we can turn it to, well, is there a way that I can solve this problem kind of without conflict, or by reducing conflict as much as possible? Or if it comes down to, is there a way that I can reduce, or I can deal with the situation at least without hatred, or without ill will? I think it's to some extent we can find ourselves in situations that we can't necessarily resolve to everyone's complete satisfaction and happiness. And we have to be willing to compromise to some extent, and also to some extent we have to look after ourselves and our families. And we say that at the very least, can I deal with the situation without hatred and without ill will in my heart? And this will be very good for us in resolving the situation without doing anything that we would later regret. Because even if we feel like we're on the right course, if we are angry, if we feel ill will towards someone, that in addition to doing what seems like really the proper thing to do, we may also do some other things that aren't so good. We end up doing useful things and unskillful things at the same time. And I think also that if someone can see that we have a negative intention towards, if we really dislike them, if we're angry at them, then this calls that up in them as well. And this in and of itself can exacerbate the situation. Whereas I've been surprised in my own life how often simply when people could see that I really had goodwill for them, or at least that I really wasn't holding a grudge against them. I didn't really dislike them or hate them. That this seemed to make them reflect on the situation differently, and sometimes called this up in themselves. You know, it kind of for some reason something in their heart responded and wanted to live up to that as well. I think it inspired that in them as well, and so this can be helpful in resolving conflict also. Richard, if you could add any thoughts.
No, this is very well explained. And time for questions. If anyone here has any questions, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sitting in the in Peace House Meditation Hall. Daniel, if you are willing to ask, yes, you are.
No, I don't have any questions at the moment, but I'm appreciating what you're saying.
Great. Thank you.
I saw a hand start to go up, but I don't want to put anyone on the spot. All questions are welcome, of course, and can be very directly related to the verse or to the discussion, or if it seems like it's a little bit tangential, that's okay too. Kobe, yes.
This is a little tangential. So you say that this verse comes from the first chapter called the Pairs.
Yeah.
And so this might be getting too far ahead. But could you relate this specific verse to its corresponding pair? I don't know if it's going too far.
I don't think it's going too far. I think it's a great question, yeah, Kobe. But I don't recall off the top of my head what the next verse is, so it's a slight pause, but it's very worthwhile looking up. Bante's bringing it up on the computer.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is verse 6. It says, this part.
Oh, wonderful, right?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. This verse comes from the very first chapter of the Dhammapada, which is called the Pairs. And so the verses come in pairs, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And we just went over verse 5. And the question is, what is the other verse in this pair? And so this is verse 6 here that Bhante Kusala's brought up. And there we go. I think perhaps it's shared on everyone's screen now. It is, people other than the wise do not realize we in this world must all die. In not realizing it, continue their quarrels. The wise realize it, and thereby their quarrels cease. Okay. People other than the wise do not realize we in this world must all die. In not realizing it, continue their quarrels. The wise realize it, and thereby their quarrels cease. That's an excellent addition to the discussion.
There's a story.
There's a story, right?
It's between there's a quarrel between the monks. Yeah.
Right.
We can, bring that up.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well, this is we actually have a whole sutta about this in the Majjhima Nikaya. It's a very important sutta. It discusses the topic is covered rarely in detail with a specific example in the suttas. And this is a quarrel that broke out between the bhikkhus, that is the monks in a monastery. It became quite protracted. This is interestingly, it's a quarrel that started out over something very, very small. I think perhaps one of the reasons this is my own speculation. One of the reasons the redactors of the canon included it is because it did start out over something so small. It's quite extreme. But it was a large monastery that had a Vinaya master. This is the teacher of the code of conduct for the monks, and a Dhamma master, who was the teacher of the suttas and the kind of philosophical teachings and teachings on meditation and so on. And one of them did made the most trivial oversight. He simply forgot to fill up the water bucket in the latrine after using it. and he discussed it with the Vinaya master, and the Vinaya master said that because he simply forgot it, it wasn't an offense, as the story is here. And but then for some reason, there's a disagreement over whether it was an offense, whether it was really an oversight, and then eventually it turned into, I think it's elsewhere in the commentaries, it adds a detail that someone claimed that actually the perpetrator of this extremely minor crime lied about it. And also there's a detail in here in this edition of the story that it was brought up that this person doesn't know whether it's an offense or not. Okay. And so something so small like whether or not you refill the bucket in the tree and turn into this an assault on someone's character, whether it was lying or their competence, in knowing the teachings of the Buddha. And then so this is a big issue suddenly. And the monastery became divided between those who followed the Dhamma master and those who followed the Vinaya master. And eventually, as the sutta tells us, the Buddha went to the monastery to try to resolve the conflict himself. And the bhikkhus actually asked him to just leave it to them and invited him to go have a pleasant abiding somewhere else. This is quite remarkable, I think. Also, it shows how far a feud can go, how much ill will there can be. That even the Buddha's disciples would ask the Buddha to not intervene, become so haughty and arrogant and firm in their positions that they couldn't be stopped. And finally, what resolved the problem was that the local lay people who were providing alms food every day saw what was going on, that they had rebuffed the Buddha in this way. They said, if you don't resolve this conflict, we're not going to give you any more food. We're not going to give you any more food until you resolve this conflict. And so this finally got their attention, as you might imagine, and they resolved the conflict. And so they can start receiving alms food again. And they've gone down in history for being so stubborn. In the Buddha uttered this verse, people other than the wise do not realize we in this world must all die, and not realizing it continue their quarrels. The wise realize it, and thereby their quarrels cease. But it's interesting the tie-in with the absence of alms food, I think, and the reference to death. That if you're in a quarrel with someone, it could go to the extent of killing each other, or this kind of thing. In this case, the bhikkhus were in danger of starving because the lay people were sick of dealing with their quarreling and weren't willing to feed them anymore. And so there's this recollection of death is another good antidote to hatred. And there's an allusion to the commonality we have with the people here as well. If we look at a conflict that we have and put it in the context of life and death, and what is really worth spending our time on, then it helps us to see through it as something relatively trivial. And if we think back again to the idea that actually we all must die, and we're all brothers and sisters in the round of rebirth and in old age, disease, and death, and this is very sobering as well. And disputes over small things can be relinquished.
Great.
Great question.
If we don't have any more questions, we can maybe begin the meditation. Would you like to guide us in a simple meditation for the next 30 minutes?
Thank you.
Can you do that?
Well, in the course of the discussion and in the first verse we were discussing, we had a reference to loving kindness. So I'd like to lead us in a loving kindness meditation. I'd like to say, if you found it more suitable for yourself to practice with another theme, of course you are welcome to, and you can kind of just tune me out a little bit and focus on another object if you prefer, another theme of meditation. But if you'd like to go ahead with a loving kindness meditation with me, we can start into that. So I'd like to invite each of you to consider that, or imagine that you you have a cord attached gently to the top of your head, and it stretches up to the ceiling or up into the sky. It just gently raises you up into an upright position, helping us sit up straight. Take a few deep breaths, gently. Allow the air to come in, to go out. Allow the body to relax. And have a sense for the body for a moment. Paying attention, for example, to the head and the face. And see how it feels and allow it to relax. Then we can close our eyes if we like. And allow the muscles around the eyes and the face to relax a bit. Just taking a moment with some sensitivity to become present right here. Maybe take another deep breath, and then we'll start the loving kindness meditation. All right. Now I'd like to start a very simple loving kindness meditation, just with a very simple saying will do. Imagining this little saying, you might call it a mantra, that will do right in the heart. If we imagine our spiritual heart in the chest, and allow our awareness to come down here to this place. If you're willing to imagine with me your spiritual heart in the chest, and imagine this mantra right here being, may I be well, happy, and peaceful. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. And we want to simply repeat this saying or this mantra to ourselves. Right here in the heart, silently and gently, and thinking of this wish for ourselves. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. 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 This is quite a simple meditation, of course, that we're doing. And it's simply a gentle wish for our own welfare. We use our mindfulness to kind of stay on course with the development of this wish. Because given time, with some guidance, the heart can develop this. And the result will be a greater ease in the heart and more happiness. So we bring our mindfulness to it and we stay on course. Give it some time and some repetition. Gently wishing ourselves, may I be well, happy, and peaceful. Just as we would wish happiness for anyone else, we can all wish ourselves to be happy. After all, we are all brothers and sisters in this great world. And we can love all as we do ourselves. And so we start with this wish for ourselves. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. All right. Now I'd like to ask you to please think of someone you have very fond feelings for, who you respect, perhaps a parent or another relative or a teacher. Take a moment to think of this person, just one person. Or if you need to, you can think of two together. And then think, may they be well, happy, and peaceful. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. And we gently repeat this with a wish for them. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. All right. Now I'd like to ask you to think of a friend. A friend. Think of one friend, or if you need to, maybe two, In holding them in your heart with the same wish, may they be well, happy, and peaceful. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. Now, this is usually quite pleasant, thinking of a friend, this wish. We want to use our mindfulness to stay with this repetition and this wish. If the mind starts thinking about something else, perhaps something related to this friend, we still just want to gently bring it back and start this repetition again. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. We may have many wonderful thoughts about them, and we just want to wait with those. And at this time, we're going to share our loving kindness with them, develop loving kindness in the heart. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. All right. Now I'd like to ask you to think of someone with whom you have kind of a neutral relationship. Perhaps someone you don't even see very often. Or if you see them often, still you don't have very strong feelings towards them, whether liking or disliking, just sort of a neutral relationship. And so there are probably many people like this. You just pick one and think it's their lucky day right now. And thinking of that person, you can continue this mantra in the heart, wishing them well. Thinking, may they be well, happy, and peaceful. 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 All right. Now I'd like us to think of someone with whom we have not such a good relationship with, if we can. This section of the meditation requires each of us to use our wisdom a little bit. And if we think of this person, a person, perhaps in the present or in the past, with whom we have such not a very good relationship with, can we wish them also to be well, happy, and peaceful? So we can practice with this a little bit and gently wish them, may they be well, happy, and peaceful. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. If we're able to do this, it's wonderful. If we find it problematic, then we can simply move back to someone who is kind of neutral, perhaps the same person or a different person. Simply continue the wish. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. All right. Now let us consider a wider scope of beings. You might consider, may all beings in this building be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in this building be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in this building be well, happy, and peaceful. And then we're going to expand the scope more and more gradually as we continue the meditation to bring it to its close. We're going to expand next to May all beings in this area be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in this area be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in this area be well, happy, and peaceful. And then may all beings in this state be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in this state be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in this state be well, happy, and peaceful. Then we'll consider the entire country. May all beings in this country be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in this country be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in this country be well, happy, and peaceful. And then may all beings on this continent be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings on this continent be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings on this continent be well, happy, and peaceful. And may all beings in the sky be well, happy, and peaceful. All beings in the skies be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in the skies be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings on land be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings on land be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings on land be well, happy, and peaceful. Then we'll consider the oceans. May all beings in the oceans be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in the oceans be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in the oceans be well, happy, and peaceful. And in the entire world, may all beings in the world be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in the world be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in the world be well, happy, and peaceful. And in the entire universe, may all beings in the universe be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in the universe be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings in the universe be well, happy, and peaceful.
Let's share some merits. May the suffering ones be suffering free, fear struck fearlessly. May the grieving shed all grief, may all beings find relief. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhante,
My
for
pleasure.
the beautiful talk and the beautiful guided meditation. Benefited us all.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to maybe end the recording, but you can stay in the program.